All right, let's dive right in. If you're in the world of pharma or life sciences, you know that custom SAP development isn't a luxury. It's pretty much a necessity. But here's the catch. Every single piece of that custom code, every Z table, every Z program, it brings a potential risk with it. So today, we're going to walk through a real practical playbook to make sure your custom SAP objects are not just working, but are completely GxP compliant and ready for any audit.
Every custom app you build it to be an asset, right? It's supposed to make a process smoother, give you critical data. But, and this is a big but, without the right controls in place, that asset can flip and become a massive liability the second an auditor walks in. That's the core problem we're tackling. You need this custom code to do business, so how do you manage it without opening the door to huge compliance risks?
This right here, this is everything. This is the golden rule of GxP. It's the one question that has to drive every single decision you make. It's not about whether something is custom or standard. What matters is its potential impact. If the answer to this question is even a maybe, then everything we're about to talk about isn't just a good idea, it's mandatory.
So, to get from that place of uncertainty to being totally audit-ready, we're going to follow a really clear 6-part journey. First, we'll start with what I call the GxP litmus test, just to figure out what's even in scope. Then, we'll get into making that compliance visible, building solid technical controls, and then the big one, formally validating the system. After that, we'll talk about how to stay compliant, and finally, what that awesome audit-ready payoff looks like.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning. This is the most crucial step, honestly. We have to decide what actually needs to be validated. You can save so much time and money just by getting this scoping right from the get-go. It's all about applying a clear, consistent test to everything you build.
So this litmus test really just boils down to 4 questions you ask about any custom object. First, direct impact. Does it touch GxP data in any way? Create, change, delete. Think batch status. Second, indirect impact. Is it used to make a GxP decision? A QA release report is the perfect example. Third, process integrity. Does it control a GxP workflow, like a deviation approval? And last, does it handle core compliance stuff like e-signatures? If you answer yes to even one of these, then congratulations, that object is in scope for validation.
And here's a super simple way to think about it. That custom QA report, it directly influences a major GxP decision. If that report is wrong, a bad product could get out the door. That makes it GxP relevant, no question. But an app for HR vacation time, it has absolutely zero impact on product quality or patient safety. Yeah, it's custom, but it's not GxP. It's that clear.
So once you've identified an object as GxP relevant, you can't just keep that information in your head. You have to make it visible to everybody, developers, users, and especially those auditors. And I'm not just talking about a document somewhere. I'm talking about building control right into the system, both on paper and in the code itself.
Your number one tool here is your RICE FW inventory. This is your master list, your single source of truth for all custom reports, interfaces, conversions, enhancements, forms, and workflows. This is probably the first thing an auditor will ask to see. You need columns that spell it out. Is it GxP relevant? What's the risk level? And what's its validation status? Seriously, this document is the foundation of your whole compliance strategy. But here's the thing. A spreadsheet, no matter how beautiful and detailed it is only half the battle. A savvy auditor is going to expect to see your compliance strategy actually built into the system. They want technical proof that you're in control of these critical objects and can stop unauthorized changes. And this is where that technical tagging is just so powerful. A fantastic best practice is to put all your validated objects into a specific GxP development package. Why? Because now you have a system-generated, undeniable list of all your GxP code. You can then lock down that entire package with super strict change controls. Add in some clear naming conventions, authorization groups for your tables, and required GxP headers in the code, and you've suddenly got this powerful, layered system of control. Okay, so we've identified our objects, we've tagged them, now it's time to build the fortress around them. This section is all about the really core technical controls that guarantee data integrity and lock down access. 2 things that every single auditor is going to zoom in on. Now, before we even talk about tools, we have to talk about the standard. And that standard is Alcoa Plus. It sounds a little complex, but it's the set of principles that defines what a good audit trail looks like. Every log has to be attributable to a person, legible, Done at the time it happened, that's contemporaneous, original, and accurate. The plus adds on things like being complete, consistent, and enduring, which basically means it can't be tampered with. This is the yardstick all your audit trails will be measured against.
Now, what's really important to get is that there's no single magic tool for audit trails. You have to pick the right tool for the job. So for a critical Z table, the absolute gold standard is using a change document object. It creates this super robust, uneditable log. For a custom program, you'd probably use the application log to capture key business events. And if you're building a cloud app on BTP, use the BTP audit log service. Using the right tool is just fundamental to creating a log you can actually defend.
And of course, the best audit trail in the world is useless if the wrong people can get to the data in the first place. These foundational controls, they're completely non-negotiable. Every user gets a unique ID. No shared accounts, period. Access is role-based, following the principle of least privilege. You absolutely must enforce segregation of duties. And finally, you have got to lock down direct table access in your production environment.
So we figured out what's in scope and we've built our controls. Now for the main event, Computer System Validation, or CSV. This is the formal, documented process where you prove with cold, hard evidence that your system does exactly what you say it's going to do. The CSV process follows a pretty logical path. It always starts with the user requirements, the URS. That's just the business defining what it needs. That gets translated into technical specs. Then you hit the 3 phases of testing, IQ, OQ, and PQ. And it all culminates in the validation summary report, which is the final official document that says, yep, this thing is ready for GxP use.
All this jargon, IQ, OQ, PQ, it can seem a little confusing, but it's actually really straightforward. Think of it this way. IQ is just, did we install it right? OQ is testing in a controlled way. Does it work like it's supposed to? Does the audit trail get created when we said it would? And PQ is the final exam with real users and real data in the live system. Can the QA manager actually do their job with this thing?
You know, a really common mistake is to think of validation as a one-and-done project. It is not. It's a state of being, a state that you have to protect for the entire life of that system. Any single uncontrolled change can basically throw all of your hard work right out the window.
So how do you protect that validated state? With this. Every change, and I mean every change, no matter how tiny, has to go through a formal change control process. It starts with a request and a deep impact assessment. Then the change gets built, tested, and revalidated in a non-production system. Only after it gets formal approval does it get moved to production. This documented process is your proof to an auditor that you're always in control.
And that brings us to the final stage, the payoff. You've done all this work, and now an auditor's at your door. How do you take everything we've talked about and show them with total confidence that your system is a fortress?
Look, the absolute key to a smooth audit is being prepared. Don't wait until they ask to go looking for stuff. Have these 4 demos in your back pocket ready to go. First, the batch release. Pull up a batch, change the status, and show them the uneditable audit trail. Second, prove your access controls work. Try to get into an admin transaction as a business user and show that it fails. Third, show the security log capturing that failed login. And finally, show them that even critical configuration changes are tracked. If you can nail these demos, the auditor knows you're in complete control. And that really brings us to the final question you need to ask yourself. When you follow a playbook like this, you're building a true fortress of compliance, where every control is documented, it's tested, and it's provable. The only other option, really, is a house of cards, just waiting for that first gust of wind from an audit to send it all tumbling down. Thanks so much for joining me.